Are you back in the office or are you still remote? Would love to hear from you. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com. And I'm interested to see if the call's coming in. You know, you can say yes, you're back at work, or no, you're not back at work, you're doing remote. But I'd like to hear the breakdown of men versus women, because apparently a new study released about a month ago, actually, but I'm just now seeing this, and it says that in returning to the office, one gender is rushing back faster than the other. Which one? You could probably guess. Would love to hear your guess. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number, and you can line those phone calls up. But I'll go ahead and reveal it to you. All right, so let's check this out again. All right, this is from Fortune, and it says, in returning to the office, one gender is rushing back faster than the other. Men are giving up remote work and returning to offices in the U.S. faster than women, according to new government data. The share of men who worked at least partly at home on an average day dropped to 28% in 2022 from about 35% the year before, resulting to an annual survey, results from an annual survey that was published last month by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For women, the share working at least partly at home fell only slightly to 41% from 41.5%. So interesting to see that. In total, 34% of Americans said they worked at least partially at home in 2022, down from 38%. Now, for myself personally, I do hybrid, right? I'm here at the radio station every morning, 6 to 9. Here at the radio station physically. Even during COVID, I was coming into the radio station every morning. It was super bizarre when the stay-at-home order was issued. We, of course, in media, were considered essential, whether you agree or disagree with that. But ultimately, we were here at the studio physically. At least I'd be in the newsroom, and then I ultimately came over and began hosting the morning show and was here physically each and every day during the peak of the pandemic. For news conferences, it was interesting because we did remote news conferences a lot, which at some points were frustrating, especially if you needed follow-up questions, if they were being filtered through the spokesperson of whatever government entity was providing that virtual news conference. But still, there's some jobs that you have to be physically in person. Some jobs you can be at home, but I'd like to hear from you, 217-629-7970. Are you back in the office or are you still working from home? Good morning.
Good morning, Greg. I'm actually still working at home. In fact, we moved here to Springfield when I got permission to work remote. I work for a major airline in the digital technology area. I do go up into Chicago for work. Maybe it's working out about once a month or so, but generally speaking, no, I work remote out of our home here in Springfield.
So the line of work you're in, it seems to allow that, right? I mean,
yes,
if you're working on computers and on networks and coding and stuff like that, I can imagine that you don't need to necessarily be in a physical office for that.
Yeah, right. My job mainly is testing and working with design folks and stuff like that. So, and developers. So yeah, my line of work is very much tailored for remote work. But there are times that there are big meetings and stuff like that, and thank God for the 110 mile an hour Amtrak. I can go up and back in one day if I need to.
Do you really think that's going to save you time, though?
Oh, it actually does a little bit. Maybe it's not much, but maybe about 10, 15 minutes. But
that's if it's not delayed because of something else that's happening on the tracks, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I saw that happen last week. Actually, I was just up there.
Of course, you did.
It does. It still does happen. But I happen to work in Willis Tower, so it's like 2 blocks from Union Station.
Oh, nice.
Over there,
Yeah. And I appreciate the call. So obviously, some jobs again allow for remote work. Listen, I mean, I come into the studio each morning to push these buttons and to push your buttons and to get you to call in at 217-629-7970. But I have done the show from home before. There's a little, some kinks need to be worked out here and there. But when the state legislature's in session, I am there at the State House. I've got an office down at the State House. When there's a news conference in the area, I physically go to that news conference. But there's a lot of times when they're not in session and there's no news conferences going on, I work from home. I've got a home office and all the equipment I need, and bada bing, bada boom, I'm able to produce everything that has to go out for the radio network and for the Center Square. So I do work from home. I like it because my wife Megan's back in the office, and she's been back in the office. I think they worked remotely for like 6 months or something, and they went back in part-time, and a lot of you experienced this as well, and limiting how many people could be in a building because of the governor's COVID-19 executive orders. But I kind of like being at home because I can get my work done. I'm very proficient at home. I don't stray from, getting a lack of focus. I can go out and water the plants in the middle of the day just to get them hydrated. So yeah, there's some benefits to it, right? Especially since when Megan comes home, 9 times out of 10, I can have dinner ready, which is great. So that works. But, some jobs you have to be in person. I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970, especially after a report from last month talks about how men are back in the office more so than women. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, morning, Greg. I had to stay at home during that initial order, and then got called back to work at the state park. So been working during COVID the entire time, interacting with the public. But a trend I noticed with a lot of people that were remote working for the state, there was a lot of abuse going on. A lot of people saying they were working, they were out grocery shopping or, doing whatever. And productivity went down. You got to be physically there to get your hands on hard copies. You got to be physically there to network with your coworkers, sometimes to see the screen, manipulate the keyboard yourself or the mouse. It's easier when you can collaborate and communicate in person.
But it's also a level of accountability being in the office, right? I mean, because listen, you can easily just duck away and take a nap if you don't have somebody walking by your cubicle every 10 minutes or so, right? So there's a level of accountability, but that collaboration I think is very important as well. I've got a colleague who when we're in the heat of working on stuff, we're hundreds of miles apart from each other, but we're working on the same thing, and phone calls back and forth are like every 5 to 10 minutes, right? Because I tell him, he's like, I'm sorry to call you. I tell him, if we were in an office space, I would want you to come to me every 5 to 10 minutes if you have questions. So it's fine. But yeah, there's a level of accountability there for people who are in the office versus those who aren't in the office.
Yeah, it's something they need to look into. And with the productivity going down, a lot of people are using that system. Unless they have some sort of geolocating data that they can get from their laptops or cell phones to be able to track where they're at. I don't really know how they're going to be able to handle that.
But even that, civil liberty concerns are there. Really, I think it's just the policies enacted by the supervisors, right? And I've heard various state agencies are fully back in office. Other state agencies are doing hybrid stuff. Others are still allowing for individuals to be completely remote. But, when it comes to other types of jobs, listen, a firefighter can't be remote. A police officer can't be remote. A auto mechanic can't be remote. A doctor, a nurse, it can't be remote, right? But somebody who's, just filling out spreadsheets, they could be remote. But should they get that hourly wage if they don't put in that whole hour? Or how should all that work out? And how do we keep people accountable? More men than women getting back into the workforce. Good morning. Where are you at?
A lot of people are actually, I think, we're starting to expand remote from work. I mean, a lot of unions are fighting for it. I know AFSCME here in town is fighting to expand, and with the new contract has language that the agency shall offer remote work. I don't think it's a very old school mentality to think that you have to be physically present, especially with some of the new modern tools of Teams and collaborative tools. I found myself to be way more productive actually in a remote work setting.
And again, it just depends on the job, right? Myself, listen, my work ethics, I don't know if it's something that's genetic or what, but I'm a workaholic. I'll freely admit it. It's not healthy, but yeah, I want to get the job done. I'm in a job where deadlines are important, where you want to be first and accurate, and you got to get stuff out there. You can't just rest on your laurels and be like, No, you got to get stuff done, right? That's my work ethic. So I'm kind of the same way at home. I'm just as productive, if not more, than I am elsewhere.
Yeah, I think the unit of work is changing too, as long as you're achieving the work that you need to get done.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a metric that needs to be measured. And I also think that there was often times that I found myself working well past my normal work hours, and I wouldn't even notice it because I was just in the grind, and I was.
Well, and that's the problem. And that's the problem, right? I mean, that's where the workaholic mentality comes in, because then you're neglecting your personal life a little bit, right? Appreciate the call. Somebody on YouTube says that their printer and their $5 million press won't fit in their house. What do they make? What do they print? Mostly junk mail. Love it. All right, 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Greg, it was 128 in the back of my truck yesterday. Today it's going to be hotter. Can I work remote, please?
No kidding, right? You delivery drivers out there. No wonder you guys got air conditioning in your new contract. So thumbs up on that. Finally. Yeah, delivery drivers, they can't work remotely. You know, come on. You expect delivery drivers to unless we get to a place where they can fly the drones to deliver your goods to your front door, then they might be able to work remotely. Who knows? Let's go ahead and take another call. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Good morning, Greg. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard, but the new contract also spells out language for some of these agencies to work from home permanently, you know, based on unit needs or, you know, the boss's discretion. So it's the future. It's here. Get used to it. And a couple callers back, a guy was saying something about productivity's down. I don't know what agency he's talking about, but our agency, actually, productivity is up. That's the reason that they got the language in the contract. So,
and just so everybody knows the reference you're making, the contract that AFSCME agreed to with the governor that was announced this week. Not everybody works for the state. Right.
Yes, and not every agency will have that. I mean, of course, like you said, there's just some jobs that you physically have to be there to do.
Yeah, you can't have jail guards work from home, right?
Right. I mean, so usually it's more your computer jobs where you're sitting at a desk just typing in keyboard all day. And I'm not belittling that job. I'm just saying it's usually those type jobs where you can actually do that sitting in your home. And as far as, we don't know where they're at, blah, blah, blah. Well, those computers have IP addresses that they ping from, and we do have an inspector general's office that does go through and check, because they have caught people.
Well, yeah, and they field complaints. They field, absolutely.
And it's not easy it's not hard to find these people. It just takes time. They do eventually get caught,
and they are held responsible and accountable. Right.
Yes, some lose jobs. Some have to pay, money back because it's a derelict of your job, really, because you're supposed to be at your work location, hence your house.
Right on. Hey, I appreciate the call. I got to get to a break, but feel free to chime in. You can email me, bishoponair@gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. All right, stay tuned. Got to take a break. 7:53 now from Culver's West on